Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Hockey Report. I am your host, Brock Seguin, and with me, I usually say, as always, is Zach Laing, but missed a show yesterday. So back with us today is our guy, Zach Laing. Zach, how you doing today, bud?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Yeah, the Monday shows might be a little tough for me to make moving forward here. I got a new meeting at the Oilers Nation offices at 1:30 in the afternoon Mountain Time, which is right around the time when we go live. So it's going to be kind of a wait and see thing on Mondays for whether or not I'll be in. But hey, the rest of the week, I know that I'm going to be here because, truth be told, there's nowhere else I'd rather be than right here with you and all of our lovely viewers and listeners.
I appreciate it. And yeah, last night was okay, I guess. Felt like we were on all the right spots, but I guess we were just talking about a pre-show, like up is down, down is up, and Philip Grubauer is the best goalie in the world again. So real interesting slate last night. I caught some flack for being so high on Calgary, but they had 42 shots. Like, I don't know. The process was there, so it doesn't always break your way. Slacker, as if Oilers Nation is as important as being Brock's wing commentary. This is true. I need my color commentator here. Really fun slate. Before we get to the goalies tonight, I just want to show you, like, this is a really interesting slate. There is not a lot of, like, big favorites on tonight's slate. The Sabres are the largest favorite of the night at minus 164, but, like, there is a lot of really, really tight hockey games, and I think it's going to make for a really interesting slate and a really interesting breakdown here. Famous last words: Washington too hard to justify without Wilson. Yeah, that was Jim B yesterday. I talked to Zach about it because I didn't end up with very much Washington 2 last night either. No Sardif at all. And had I known that Leonard, like, Protas wasn't going to play and Leonard was going to be on that second line, like, I would have loved that second line. But just the uncertainty of where Leonard was going to slot in kept me off of them, and then it kind of ended up coming to bite me in the ass. So let's get into tonight's slate. Let's start with the goalies, as we always do. Speaking of goalies, Levi Merrillainen is still the worst goalie in the league, though. Yeah. So I guess the upside down hasn't completely arrived. Grubauer is amazing, but Merrillainen still ass. So we're kind of still living a normal life here. Hi, I love your show. By the way, do you think I need to drop Landeskog? All depends. If you don't have the IR spot, like, maybe it depends on the format, how deep your league is. But it sounds like he's going to miss some time. So, like, I wouldn't be actively trying to drop him, but, like, it's a shallower league and there's good waiver wire options and you don't have an IR spot, I wouldn't hesitate. Let's get to the goalies. Brandon Busty likely to start for the Carolina Hurricanes. It's going to be Jake Ottinger for the Dallas Stars. Seth Jarvis will return to the Hurricanes lineup tonight, so we'll get to that in a little bit. Buffalo Sabres are going to go with UPL. It's going to be Thatcher Demko for the Canucks. The Sabres will get Jason Zucker back in the lineup tonight. Philadelphia Flyers will go with Dan Vladar, projecting to see Lucas Dostal in the second half of a back-to-back. For the Ducks, although they did recall Ville Husso today, so, I mean, there's something going on there. We've got Matvei Mishkov day-to-day as well, game time decision. So Mrazek, he was banged up yesterday, so, like, I imagine Husso is just coming up to replace Mrazek as the backup. So that's that, but I'm just like, there is, I guess, the possibility that Husso gets a start is what I'm trying to get at. It should be Dostal. Andrei Vasilevsky projected to go for the Tampa Bay Lightning, likely going to see Scott Wedgwood for the Avs. No Landeskog, as we just mentioned, no Devon Taves either for the Avs there. Joseph Woll gets to start for the Toronto Maple Leafs, who will get Brandon Carlo back, but Jake McCabe is now out. They're a disaster. The Florida Panthers will go with Sergei Bobrovsky, no Matthew Tkachuk yet. Ilya Sorokin gets a start for the Islanders back after a lengthy absence. Jacob Markstrom goes for the Devils. Projecting to see Connor Hellebuyck, projecting to see Carter Hart, both unconfirmed. Connor Ingram gets a start for the Edmonton Oilers, facing the team that drafted him, the Nashville Predators in town. The mayor of Nashville also in town, that being Leon Draisaitl. We'll get to that one in a little bit. The Nashville Predators projected to go with UC Saros. Alex Nedeljkovic, feels like it's been a while since we've seen him between the pipes. He'll start against the Columbus Blue Jackets, who will go with Jack Reeves, basically starts every game. And then, maybe Seattle goes to Grubauer in the second half of back-to-back, just because he's the best goalie in the world now. But we are projecting to see Joey Daccord versus Jeremy Swayman. So very difficult night between the pipes, as I mentioned. Lots of really tight games tonight, so it's going to be a bit of a tricky night to nail down the goalies here. But Zach, do you want game one or game two?
You know what? You take game one because that sets me up to take the Oilers and Edmonton tonight.
I love how you've already counted. I'm always just like, hey, let's just see where it lands, and you're ready. The Hurricanes are minus 136 home favorites. 3.4 implied total is tied for second highest on the night. Really, really good 5v5 offense as of late. And I mentioned this is a really interesting game here because suddenly both of these teams are really struggling defensively. Which I didn't really have on my bingo card. That's not really something that I anticipated seeing from either one of these clubs. But over the last 10 games in terms of 5v5 expected goals against, Carolina is the sixth worst in the league. The Dallas Stars are the 10th worst in the league. And then in all situations, it gets even worse. The penalty kill's really been in a bit of a tough spot here for the Dallas Stars. In all situations, expected goals against per 60 last 10 games. Dallas Stars third worst in the NHL. So both these teams struggling a little bit to defend right now. Both teams have really good offenses, and you know, power plays are pretty decent as well. Obviously, Dallas has cooled off a little bit, but does look like a pretty, you know, possibly interesting game environment here. Like, I don't think we necessarily look at Carolina and Dallas and think like super high scoring shootout. And I think it, you know, obviously has that possibility. And with as little ownership as there is coming in on this game, I do think it's kind of an interesting game to get to if both these teams do struggle to defend at 5v5 and on the penalty kill. So Carolina 1 has been really, really good as of late, and they draw a really nice matchup tonight. They're going to go head to head with the Wyatt Johnson, Mikko Rantanen line. Duchesne, Johnson, Rantanen, really, really poor defensive metrics. Quite honestly, pretty poor offensive metrics as well. Really, really good stuff here from Carolina 1. They have been pretty hot. Nick Ehlers technically is like on the first power play unit. He won't show up as that because Jordan Staal technically, like, so we kept him here. Like, if you see tweets though that say like Staal is on the top unit, basically what happens is Staal goes out, takes the face off, and then just like gets off the ice, and Ehlers comes on. So that is kind of interesting if you want to play this top line. They fully correlate on that top power play unit, which draws, again, a pretty favorable matchup tonight. Their power play's been better as of late. Stars PK giving up plenty of quality chances. So I do think Carolina 1 in a bit of a sneaky spot tonight. I think Carolina 2 as well, although the matchup is significantly worse. The underlying metrics are really, really good for this line. We saw them have a pretty nice game the other night, and 11,800 with no ownership. I think they're a deep tournament dart throw there. For me, I think it's still kind of difficult to get to Johnston and Rantanen. Just given these offensive metrics, obviously they come through on the power play all the time, but these metrics are really bad. I don't know if we can call it a revenge game for Mikko Rantanen. He spent like 2 weeks there, but I still feel better about Dallas too. The matchup for them is significantly worse. They're going to see a lot of the Jordan Staal line. So to me, I'm probably not going to get to much Dallas at all. But if I were, it's probably just going to be through the line with the better offensive metrics, which is Robertson, Hintz, and Bork. But I think most of my interest is coming in on the Carolina side of things. Not really all that interested in the Stars tonight. Their power play has really kind of hit the skids as of late, and also not projected for very many power plays tonight. The Hurricanes very disciplined. So for me, I think it is an interesting little game environment. I think it's better than it looks on the surface, but I have a lot more interest in the Hurricane side of things tonight. How about you?
Yeah, I think I agree with you here. I really like to look at this spot for Carolina 1 here tonight. Obviously, full correlation on that top power play unit. You love to see that there. You know, these three guys have been really productive as of late. Solid floors as well across the board. Like to see a little bit more volume from a guy like Nick Ehlers here. But Svechnikov and Aho have been absolutely tremendous as of late. All three have had relative success against the Stars in their career too. Sebastian Aho, 10 goals and 26 points in 24 games played. 5 goals and 26 points in 31 games played for Nick Ehlers as well. Svechnikov, a little harder to come by offensively, 3 goals and 13 points in 21 games. One thing that's interesting, though, Shane Gostisbehere on the blue line, 7 goals and 16 points in 18 games played. So I've got interest in getting here to this spot for Carolina 1 here tonight. There's some correlation on that top power play unit. I think in my 20 max tonight, it'll be easy to squeeze 5% of them in, and maybe even look for some mini stack or some one-off potentials here as well. You know, in terms of the third line, I think that could also be a really interesting spot. Seth Jarvis down there with Staal and Martinuk, that's a huge offensive boost to that line. I think if you're looking for a real punty kind of line tonight, I don't mind the idea of going with that line there. You know, I think Dallas too obviously is the one to target here from the Stars side of things. You know, Robertson continuing to be an absolute monster, and one has to wonder with this, you know, Olympic snub here, if all of a sudden he catches fire here offensively. That would not surprise me in the very least. I have some comfort getting there tonight with those two guys. It is worth noting though, the matchup is pretty tough for them going up against that Carolina 3 line tonight. tonight. So a little bit of a thinner play there, it feels like, but I'm still willing to get to Dallas too, especially with how much success they've had on the power play this season.
Let's get to game number 2. We've got the Buffalo Sabres hosting the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, boy, the Buffalo Sabres, pretty heavy favorites here tonight. Minus 164 on the money line, 3.5 implied total for them, 2.7 implied total for the Canucks, who are coming in as a plus 147 underdogs here. The Sabres, are they a good hockey team? The numbers show they might be a good hockey team, at least at 5-on-5 here. You know, their metrics have really improved both offensively and defensively over this last little run that they've been on here. Taking a look at the line stacks here in this game tonight, Buffalo won, grading out as the best liner target in this game, though they do come in 19th overall. Overall on the charts tonight, you know, a little bit below that top 15 mark that I usually try and keep as many lineups as I can within. You know, Vancouver 34th overall, Buffalo 35th, and the rest of the lines are down there as well tonight. This game is drawing a little bit of ownership. You know, Buffalo 1 and 2, both seeing about 5-6% ownership. Vancouver 1 seeing about 5% ownership here as well. Taking a look at the matchups tonight, pretty low pace score, lowest pace score of the night here, just a 94. But there are some solid matchups in this game. You know, the top 6 looks playable here for the Buffalo Sabres in terms of their matchups. I do think that I prefer that top line to that second line a little bit overall here. You know, solid matchups nonetheless for them. For the Canucks, about average, above average. You know, that third line actually draws the best matchup of the night here for the Vancouver Canucks. Drew O'Connor, Kiefer Sherwood, and David Kampf. I mean, I'm honestly, if I'm playing anything from Vancouver 3, it's just Sherwood one-offs. Or, you know, a little correlation with him and a guy like Tom Willander, who slides up to that top power play unit at $2,500. I think Willander's a really interesting play here on this slate tonight. I'm kind of in agreement on this ownership here as a whole, though. Like, I don't really see a need to get a ton of ownership here in this game tonight. I think Buffalo won. I'm comfortable playing them. You know, they've been rock solid as of late here. 9-1 in their last 10 games. The Sabres are. Offensively, things are clicking. Their defensive metrics have been tremendous as well. You know, biggest issue is this power play just cannot seem to get going for them over this last little 10-game stretch here. So, you know, weak power play. They do have, you know, a modest matchup tonight going up against a pretty brutal penalty kill from the Vancouver Canucks. So, obviously, you got Tage Thompson and Josh Stone up there on that top line. I think for me, I'm more comfortable just kind of mini stacking those two guys together, and kind of with this second line. I mean, it's tempting to play all three of them together. If you are, I don't mind that idea whatsoever. Obviously, Jason Zucker returning to the lineup here tonight as well. You know, that adds a little bit of firepower to that second line as well. So I think for me tonight, you know, this Vancouver side of things might be a little bit tougher to get to. That being said, Elias Pettersson and Jake DeBrusk have been kind of running hot here as of late. So I don't mind a little sprinkle on that mini stack either. And Linus Karlsson at 3K, I don't mind including him there either. You know, he's drawing a little bit of ownership, just dependent on that goal scoring here, though, as he scored a couple as of late. So I don't feel the greatest about this Canucks second line. Like I said, with this third line, a little Sherwood one-off or a mini stack with him and Willander, I don't mind whatsoever. How do you kind of feel about this one, Brock?
Kind of an interesting game to me because it doesn't feel like one that I would typically get to a whole lot, but I do think there are some interesting spots. I want to start with the top line of the Canucks. It's only been 31 minutes, but the underlying metrics are stunningly good. 7.6 expected goals for per 60, 70 scoring chances, 45 high danger chances. I mean, what? Just ridiculous stuff. So obviously super small sample size, and you know, part of that sample was against a Kraken team that is horrific defensively. This line had a lot of success against the Bruins, who obviously aren't great defensively either. So, if you look at the recent matchups, like since DeBrusk was a healthy scratch and back in the lineup and put back on that top line, they've been really good in some easy matchups. So I take it with a grain of salt. But even if you like downgrade it for matchup standards, I mean, they're still averaging 45 high danger chances for per 60, which is out of this world. So I think, like, again, if I'm playing one lineup tonight, Vancouver one probably not a heavy priority for me, but you know, in a 20 max or so, like, I think they're super interesting because they are really, really cheap. And then you mentioned Willander on the blue line, minimum price defenseman, like on the top power play unit, pretty rare. not a good power play matchup at all, but it's a power play that's actually been pretty efficient. So I do think this Vancouver Canucks side of things is a little bit interesting from just a pure value perspective with Pettersson, DeBrusk, Willander, and then Linus Carlson. I mean, that's a really cheap stack. And if you want to pair them with like the Oilers or one of these really expensive stacks, and I think they're kind of interesting. I think they can get there. And then on the Sabres side of things, I think I just feel the best about Josh Doan and Tage Thompson. That mini stack is probably the route that I'll go. I think most of it has to do with the fact that Tage Thompson is only $7,300, which I think is kind of crazy. The underlying or the matchup's good. The underlying metrics have come around. They weren't great like a week ago. They've gotten better. So when you look at the metrics for this team, I do think they're a little fraudulent. Like in terms of what they've done recently. But I do think this top line, if anybody's going to get on the board tonight, it's probably going to be Tage Thompson or Josh Doan. So like you said, 5% ownership. I don't mind getting maybe double the field here on Buffalo 1 and then similar with Vancouver 1. I think they're both in kind of interesting spots. But as a whole, if I'm building one lineup, this game not a major priority for me. Any final thoughts before we get to Philly and Anaheim?
No, let's move it along.
So the Flyers are pretty large favorites here with the Ducks in the second half of a back-to-back. Basically the opposite teams here. The Flyers very good defensively, pretty decent offensively. Nothing, stands out tremendously, but the Ducks very good offensively, awful defensive team. Pretty interesting game. Like I want to have some interest in the Ducks just because like I said it yesterday, you weren't here, but their numbers as of late, like they're really trending up again in terms of their 5v5 play. But this is a really tough matchup against a very stingy Flyers team. So I don't think I'm going to get to the Ducks at all tonight. And the ownership, the field isn't getting there either. I think you could maybe build like one lineup with Anaheim 2 and try to catch kind of fire in a bottle here. Because obviously, like their underlying metrics have just been outstanding together. Whenever it's Cutter Gauthier with McTavish and Seneca, I mean, their underlying metrics are just fantastic. And at under 1% ownership, I think it's worthy of like a one lineup type thing in a 20 max because I obviously they have shown capable to just absolutely nuke a slate and they're pretty affordable tonight. On the Flyer side of things, I think I got a pretty healthy amount of interest. It starts here with just the ridiculously good matchups across the board. And I think there's a number of routes that you can go. We've got the Philadelphia top line grading out with the best offensive metrics. I think you can certainly get there. You got kind of the Zegras revenge narrative tonight at $5,900. Dvorak just signed a big deal yesterday. Konechny, like that. This line's just too cheap for as good as they are. They're drawing a healthy amount of ownership, but I think it's a really good spot for them. And then on the second line, Denver Barkey, 3K, really good value option. Tippett's always got good volume. I don't mind that mini stack yet again. The power play for the Flyers is dreadful, but the Ducks PK, nothing really to write home about either. So, it's always difficult to be like, hey, let's take a look at the Flyers power plays. And like, they just basically, it's like a 50-50 split. But if you want to look at it, Barkey's technically on the top unit with their first line guys. So I think he makes sense as a value one-off, but a lot of interest here coming in on this top line for the Flyers because, this is just a really, really good matchup. We saw it yesterday with the Capitals. I mean, they put up a 7 spot. This is a Ducks team that is just terrible at defending. And I think obviously the Zegras narrative is also super fun to look at tonight. What are your thoughts here on the Flyers and the Ducks?
Yeah, I love the Zegras narrative. Love the Dvorak narrative. Philly 1 feels like a bit of a narrative play on this slate here tonight. One of a couple. There's certainly another one we'll be talking about a little bit later, to say the very least. But I love the look of this Philadelphia side. I've been playing quite a bit of this top 6 over this last little stretch that they've been playing so well. And I'll be easily getting back there tonight. I'll be over the field on Philadelphia 1, not by a ton, but I think getting a little over the field here is a good spot. This second line, I've got some interest in too. I mean, this is going to be an easy spot to get over the field. You play one full stack of Philadelphia 2, boom, you're over the field on these 3 guys here tonight. Obviously, Couturier, one guy that you can leave off of these stacks. I will say, though, 9 goals and 18 points in 18 games played against the Ducks in his career. So maybe he can catch some lightning in a bottle here. This Duck side of things, I do have some interest in playing them. And I think largely just this second line. Obviously, the line stats are tremendous for them, and it is a tough matchup. Don't get me wrong, going up against this Flyers team. They are projected to see a bit of a split of their ice time. 39% of their ice time coming up against Philadelphia 1, 41% going up against Philadelphia 3, and it's kind of a bit of devil on, or like the angel on the devil on the shoulder sort of a thing. If you look at the defensive metrics for the Philadelphia Flyers, this third line, tremendous. They just allow absolutely nothing to opposing teams. But this top line is the weakest line defensively for the Philadelphia Flyers. So, this game does have the highest pace score of the night, I believe, 103.2. Yeah, it is the highest of the entire night here. So I can see a world where this second line is able to kind of break through and have a bit of success here tonight on this slate. Obviously, tremendous shot volume from all three of these guys over their last 20 games played here. Beckett Seneke, 9.1 shots on goal per hour, Mason McTavish, 9.8, and Cutter Gauthier, 11.2. So, fire me up. I got some interest here in this game for sure.
Yeah, I messed up my sayings there. It's lightning in a bottle, not fire in a bottle, and it is the Tampa Bay Lightning we're going to talk about next. So, nice segue there for you.
Yeah, fascinating game here tonight, right? I mean, just two absolute powerhouses from each conference. It's a pick 'em here tonight, coin flip game, although the Avalanche are slight favorites here, minus 109 on the money line, 3.2 implied total as they pay visit to sunny Southern Florida, minus 101 on the money line for the Lightning, who will have a 3.1 implied total. I mean, you just take a look at it here. Both two teams who are just top five overall very easily. Tremendous offenses, tremendous defenses, a couple of power plays that are struggling, and a couple of middling penalty kills here as well. Taking a look at the line stacks here in this game tonight, the charts absolutely love this game. Tampa 2 grading out as the best line to target in this game, 6th overall in the charts tonight. Colorado 1 coming in at 9th, which honestly feels like the lowest that we have seen Colorado 1 in a significant amount of time here.
100% of 100. I mean, part of it has to do with Victor Olofsson projecting to move up there. It does hurt the underlying metrics for them a little bit. But and I just wanted to interrupt for a second because we have that projected because that's what happened after Landeskog got hurt yesterday. We're not 100% sold that that's going to be the case. Gavin Brindley's played some on that top line, but Olofsson was the one that moved up when Landeskog got hurt the other night. And yeah, that's part of the reason. But this is certainly the lowest we've seen them grade out, and the lowest ownership we've seen from them in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just projecting for 6% ownership here tonight. Still grading out well in the charts. Don't get me wrong. 9th overall. Colorado 2 close behind at 10th, and Tampa 1 coming in at 29th overall. Taking a look at the matchups here in this game tonight. Tampa 2 drawing far and away the best matchup here in this game tonight. They're projected to spend projected to spend 72% of their ice time going up against Colorado 1. As tremendous as they've been offensively, it's certainly a different look there with Victor Olofsson, who kind of does a little bit of damage to some of these defensive metrics for Colorado 1 here tonight. The Avs offensively are just, there's not a whole lot to say here that hasn't been said as of late, but it is worth noting that the matchups are pretty terrible here for this top 6 of the Colorado Avalanche. I'm kind of in agreement with the ownership on Colorado here. I'm still going to get there a little bit tonight. I'm fine throwing a little bit of ownership the way of this top line for sure. If it is Victor Olofsson who does stick up there, I think it becomes a really, really interesting, kind of pivot option here on this slate tonight, especially with him projecting for, just 2% ownership here on this slate tonight. If he sticks up there, I think that's a solid value play. On that front, the Tampa Bay side of things, I'm probably going to get there a little bit tonight. I mean, this seems like a great spot for Tampa 2. A little bit of a worse spot here for this top line, but if I'm 20 maxing here tonight, I'm still okay throwing a mini stack somewhere of Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov here. How are you kind of feeling about this game tonight?
It's hard to ignore the second line of the Lightning at 1% ownership. I think this is a real just charts play. It didn't work great the last time we showed these 3 out, so I'm not going to go crazy or anything, but I mean, the 83.5% matchup score and then these offensive metrics are just unbelievable. So yeah, I think they're a really interesting get different play tonight at 1% ownership, 2% ownership. I'll definitely be getting there, sprinkling in some Colorado, but for the most part, I think this is going to be a fairly low event hockey game. It's always kind of risky to stick your neck out and say that when you've got as much talent and as much firepower as is going to be on the ice tonight. It can certainly break out, which is why I think at low ownership it's kind of interesting because on the surface you look and this is just two unbelievable defensive teams. They're also very good offensively, so it does feel like a bit of a lower scoring game, but that's not to say that it cannot. It could certainly be a barn burner tonight. So I'm interested for sure. I think it's a great game environment to potential game environment to get to at low ownership. And there's just, like I said, so much firepower on the ice. These two teams met twice last year, and the Lightning won 8-2 and 5-2. So I think, if you look at those two scores, there was plenty of goals in those games. I think this is a different Colorado team, but I mean, no Devon Taves. I mean, basically been tied at the hip with Cale Makar for like half a decade now. Feels like. I don't think it can be understated just how big of a deal that is. At 5v5 the other night, they got caved in. Cale Makar did at 5v5 against the Panthers. So I think that is something to talk about tonight. And with this matchup, I think getting to that second line is a really interesting get different spot for sure. And obviously all the firepower in this game. I'll still sprinkle them in 5% of everybody, maybe a little bit over the field on Kucherov, McKinnon, and company, just in case things get crazy. So very interesting game environment. Should be a super fun hockey game to watch. Any final thoughts before we move on to the next game?
Let's keep rolling.
The Avs do have the fourth best power play advantage of the night. The Lightning do take a lot of penalties. I guess we kind of glossed over Colorado too, who's like, they're fully attacked still, right? Like the top line got hurt the other night, but Lehkonen, Nelson, and Chushkin still very cheap, still all together. You got Nelson and Chushkin on the top power play unit together. I think there's a lot to like here about Colorado too, yet again, as well as they've played as of late. Toronto and Florida. So this Florida team is interesting because I feel like they're starting to turn a corner and look a lot more like themselves. And then I was kind of like all in on them on the Winter Classic, and they kind of shit their pants in that one. And then now they meet a Toronto team that's still trying to kind of find their way. And it's like, how do you look at this Panthers team coming off of just a disastrous performance in the Winter Classic, but then a just dominating performance against the best team in the league? So very interesting hockey game tonight. Still no William Nylander for the Maple Leafs. Basically a coin flip game. When you take a look at the metrics here, the Panthers by far the better offense. Both teams struggling a little bit defensively. The Panthers very good at the PK. I don't have a lot of interest in the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight, but I will say this. The top line grades out as the top line overall in this game. The matchups are not great for the Leafs. They're even worse for the Panthers, surprisingly. The top line for the Maple Leafs, though, surprisingly good metrics. We talk about Max Domi being a bit of a black hole of offense. These metrics are pretty damn good. So, with this line expected to go up against the Lindell line, I think that limits my interest a little bit. If they were going to see a little bit more of this Bennett line, which is not the way they've matched up against the Panthers historically, it's usually Tavares versus Bennett and Matthews versus Lindell. Or Barkov. And so if that's the case, I do have a little bit less interest, but boy, I think that getting to a little bit of Matthews and Bobby McMahon tonight is a decent play. I'm not going to get carried away because, like I said, this Panthers team has the ability to just kind of stifle you. But again, no Seth Jones. He's had a nice defensive season. I think that for the most part, not a ton of interest for me in the Leafs. The Panther side of things, Bennett, Marchand still going to get there. Marchand's been talking a lot of shit about the Leafs, so he's going to be excited for this one. I don't mind getting to Bennett. I don't mind getting to Marchand tonight. They've been excellent. Aaron Ekblad, super cheap on the blue line as well. I'll get there. Don't really care about the top line. Reinhart always in play. But there's just nothing really that sticks out in this game in terms of a matchup that looks like you can really take advantage of outside of maybe a decent power play matchup here for the Panthers. But nothing really jumps off the page as like a huge leverage spot. So yeah, I'll sprinkle some ownership here. Matthews, McMahon, minis. Lot more interest though in Bennett, Marchand, Ekblad for me.
Yeah, honestly, I really don't have anything to add here. I'm pretty much in full agreement with you on this spot. I'm good sprinkling a bit on this top line for the Leafs, a little bit on Florida too, and kind of can just carry on from there.
Let's move it along to, I don't know which game it is. It is the Islanders and the Devils.
Yeah, game number 6 on the night here tonight. The Islanders are home underdogs, even though they're just at even money, pretty close to a pick 'em here. 2.8 implied total for them, 2.9 implied total for the New Jersey Devils, minus 110 on the money line. They are here tonight. Two teams with middling offenses, or for actually middling offenses is probably a very generous way of putting it. Two teams with not very good offenses and about average defenses here. The Devils, obviously, a really solid power play here as of late, and that's somewhere where the Islanders have really been struggling. Taking of the line stacks here in this game tonight, the Devils top line, Dak Hughes, Nico Hischier, and Jesper Bratt grading out as the best line to target here in this game tonight. 5th overall on the charts, $19,500. Not drawing a whole lot of ownership. at just 3.6% here tonight. I think that's a line that I'm willing to get to a little bit here tonight on this slate. The Islanders top line coming in as the second best line in this game. 14th overall in the charts, New Jersey 26th, and the Islanders second line coming in at 38th overall. Taking a look at the matchups here in this one tonight, above average matchups across the board. Doesn't have a pace score in this game that really jumps out at you or anything like that, but fairly solid across the board. I think that kind of makes it a little bit interesting. Getting to this game, if you look at the Devils side of things, at least in terms of the ownership, fairly spread out within this top six. That top line drawing 3.2% ownership, or 3.6% ownership rather, and 3.2% coming in on this second line here tonight. Tough spot to kind of really identify who to go after here. I think I'm okay getting a bit of ownership on this Devils top line. I like the fact that they got Jack Hughes, Heischer, and Bratt kind of loaded up there. But I do think that second line does provide a little bit of a pivot option, a little bit of a cheaper salary there. Obviously with Gritsik, a good shot volume guy there, 8.7 shots on goal per hour over his last 20 games. Timo Meier, obviously a volume hound there as well. I don't really feel as much of a need, I think, to get to this second line as I do this first line on the Devils side of things. And in terms of the Islanders, I'm willing to throw a little bit of ownership here the way of this top line for the New York Islanders. Jacob Markstrom getting the start tonight for the Devils. He's been one of the worst starting goaltenders in the NHL this season. It's kind of been my rule. Target the goaltender or target Jacob Markstrom, target Jordan Binnington. I'm going to go back to that well here tonight. I'll throw 5% ownership at this top line here tonight. Solid matchup for them tonight. The line stats are the best of anybody on this Islanders side of things. No massive power play advantage to speak of here tonight. The Devils do come in with a really good power play as of late here. But it is a middling penalty kill for the New York Islanders, grading out 16th overall as of late here. So don't really feel a big need to kind of jam in the power play here or anything like that. But it is worth mentioning. You can correlate Luke Hughes with that top line as well, as he is that power play quarterback. How are you kind of feeling on this one tonight?
Not great. These two teams met twice this year. It's 3-2 and 2-1. I do kind of feel like it's probably going to be a little bit lower scoring. The one thing I will say about those hockey games, the Devils carried the play for the majority of them. 35 shots on goal, Sorokin stood on his head. In the other game, 32 shots on goal, and Riddick stood on his head. So if I am going to get to this game, as you mentioned, it is going to be most likely the Devils. This power play has been good. I will probably get to Heischer, Bratt, and Hughes to some extent, but nothing crazy. I don't mind the second line as a bit of a value option, but the underlying metrics are pretty underwhelming. They're okay. The matchup's okay. So, yeah, I don't mind the top six here for the Devils, but for the most part, not getting to a lot of this game. It feels like Zach has a rational hate towards Markstrom, similar to Brock with the GOAT Connor Bedard. I won't classify it as hate. I'm a numbers guy, and I think Zach is too. And looking at the numbers here, Markstrom, I do think maybe you hate on him a little bit, but I love the stance. Like, I just love how every time Binnington and Markstrom get a start, you're like, yeah. So I hate those guys. Matthews will go in against the Bennett line. I mean, possibly. Like I said, I don't know for sure. But based on the last time these two teams met in Toronto, it was Lundell faced the Matthews line for 9 minutes and faced the Tavares line for 2.5 minutes. And then the Bennett line went out there and faced the Tavares line for 9 minutes and the Matthews line for 4 minutes. So that's all I can possibly go off of confidently. If they change it tonight, nothing we can control. Winnipeg and Vegas, very low implied total here. Zach, we talked about earlier, the Stars and Hurricanes not really doing or defending very well as of late. It's kind of switched for the Jets. The Jets are second best in terms of 5.5 expected goals against over their last 10. The Vegas Golden Knights, also, they've been defending extremely well. They also have a very good PK. This game feels super low scoring to me. I don't really have a boatload of interest in this one. I don't know if you feel differently. Obviously this Golden Knights team getting healthy is pretty interesting, but man, like, no ownership coming in. Nobody grades out with, within the top 15, not a single above average matchup in this game. The underlying metrics are pretty underwhelming. It is actually kind of crazy that it seems like Winnipeg one's metrics get better with Alex Iafallo than they do Gabe Vilardi. He does keep the ownership down, or the price tag down a little bit, but again, I just don't. It's hard to confidently get to the Jets right now. That being said, if it is Carter Hart tonight, he is suddenly falling apart. Has not played well whatsoever as of late. He has given up at least 4 goals in 3 straight games against the Avs, against the Wild, and against the Blues. So a couple of difficult matchups mixed in there, but in 800 save percentage in his last 3 starts. So if you want a reason to get to the Jets at 5-6% ownership, I think they're pretty cheap. I think there's some reason to get there because of just Carter Hart's struggles as of late. But man, it's a bad power play matchup. So don't have a ton of faith here. But Winnipeg flowchart, man, we haven't talked about it a lot this year. It's like when it doesn't feel like they should smash, they do. So maybe that flowchart comes in handy tonight. And then Dorofeev and Hurdle are always guys I like to play. Their price tag's super cheap. They are so much better with Marner on the wing. It's not even funny. And like, that's not surprising, right? Obviously Marner's an absolute stud. So I think at that price tag, man, 17,500 with as much firepower that is on this line as there is, I think they're always fun to get to. They fully correlate in the top power play unit, which is the number 1 power play matchup on the slate. That is a line that I want to get to tonight at 2% ownership. I think they're a very interesting play. Again, I don't have a lot of high hopes for this game being super high scoring, but and if I'm building one lineup, is this going to be the line that I target? Maybe, but probably not. But if you're building multiple lineups, this looks like a line that is in a really, really nice spot tonight. And, I've been burned by them a lot, so like I'm kind of ready for it again. But man, 17,500 full power play correlation. There's a lot of firepower in this line. The matchup for them, if I could get to it, is not great. They're going to see a lot of the Scheifele line, which typically when Velarde's up there is a good matchup. With Iafallo, they're much better defensively, but it's also just not a matchup that scares me that much. So, I'm going to get to Vegas too. They're my favorite play in this game. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you here. I'm good with getting to Vegas too. Full correlation on the top power play unit, and the Golden Knights do have the number 1 power play matchup on the entire slate here tonight. So I think for that reason alone, I'm comfortable getting there. It does seem like a decent spot at 5-on-5 as well. I don't really have much interest in playing this top line. In terms of Winnipeg, I am a bit intrigued by this top line, a little bit cheaper with Alex Iafallo up there. Worth noting, 9 goals and 27 points in 35 games played going up against the Golden Knights in his career. This is a guy that you don't really think of as a big point producer or anything like that. So seeing him having had success in Vegas in his past certainly intrigues me a little bit. And Kyle Connor too, 11 goals and 25 points in 20 games played. So fire me up a little bit of Winnipeg one here tonight. I'll get to 5% on them, no problem, and probably 5% on the second line for the Golden Knights. That's really all I got interest in this game, though.
Pretty tight games last year outside of a 4-0 win for the Jets, 3-2 overtime win for the Golden Knights, 4-3 regulation win for the Golden Knights. They have yet to meet this season. Let's move it along to your Edmonton Oilers hosting the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, fascinating game tonight here. You want to talk about a narrative play? Look at Leon Draisaitl's.
Yeah, let's just start with it.
Let's just get right into it here. Leon Draisaitl has played 29 games against the Nashville Predators in his career. He's got 27 goals and 48 points against them. In his last 15 games against the Predators, 21 goals and 39 points in that stretch of time. Draisaitl is in a bit of a scoring slump right now. He has 3 goals in his last 13 games played. All 3 of them came in a hat-trick performance against the Calgary Flames. This seems like a bit of a great spot for Draisaitl to bounce back. 2 of his 11 career hat-tricks have come against the Nashville Predators, one of them in a 4-point game. It doesn't seem like the greatest spot here for this Oilers second line. He's going to have Vasily Podkolzin as well as Kasperi Kapanen back, making his return to the Oilers lineup. He's been banged up for the last couple of months here, working his way back from a knee injury. Kapanen has had some success up there with Leon Draisaitl. They played together in the playoffs last year. In the second round going up against the Vegas Golden Knights, and they were able to find some success. The offensive metrics aren't tremendous for them here together, just 1.8 goals for per hour of ice time, but both Podkolzin and Kapanen are guys who can kind of get that puck quickly over to Leon Draisaitl, and that's exactly what we're looking for here tonight. So, Draisaitl only drawing 7.5% ownership here tonight. Podkolzin and Kapanen, nobody is playing them whatsoever. I think you got to get there a little bit with these other guys, because there's a really real possibility that if Draisaitl does go off tonight, even if it's just a goal at 5-on-5, Podkolzin and Kapanen can be there to help him out with that as well. Obviously, when you look at this game as a whole, Oilers are the favorites, minus 143 on the money line, 3.5 implied total for them here tonight, 2.9 for the Nashville Predators. Edmonton 1 is grading out as not only the best line to target in this game, but the best line on the entire slate as a whole. They're back. Edmonton 1 is fully back here. Connor McDavid, Zach Hyman, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, they're firing on all cylinders right now. They're the highest owned line on the slate here, projecting for about 15% ownership. So if you are getting there with Edmonton 1 tonight, you're going to have to find some ways to get this lineup a little bit different. I think we've touched on a number of points that could be, or a number of options that could be out there here on this slate tonight. Nashville, they've been playing good too lately, and Nashville 1 grading out 18th overall on the charts. The Oilers are still not a great defensive team. There's no way to sugarcoat it. They're still struggling in their own zone. 2.83 goals against per hour at 5-on-5 over their last 10 games played. 8.7 goals against per hour on the penalty kill. Nashville certainly has a route to success here tonight. So, I think for me, goes without saying, I'm going to be pretty heavy on the Edmonton Oilers, beating the field on this top line for sure, getting over it on this second line. Power play stacks, always viable with this Edmonton Oilers team, given how potent they are. And they do come in with the number 3 matchup on the entire slate tonight. Even though it is a Predators penalty kill that has been really good as of late, this is a dangerous Oilers power play. So for me tonight, like I said, at the field on Edmonton 1, over the field on Edmonton 2. I'm going to play a little bit of this Nashville top 6 as well. Probably more so this top line, I think, than this second line here tonight. Steven Stamkos has always lit up the Edmonton Oilers. 16 goals and 23 points in 22 games played against them. Oh yeah, and he's got 2.4 goals for per hour over his last 20 games. So he's been red hot. I kind of really like this game environment, even if it doesn't have a great pace score or great matchups in it. You feeling any different here tonight?
No, not at all. I agree with everything you said. A lot of interest here on this Nashville power play tonight. This is a PK that's really giving up a lot of quality looks here for the Edmonton Oilers. This is a power play that's been pretty solid for the Predators. So yeah, I like getting to a lot of Nashville 1 tonight. I like mixing in Steven Stamkos with those power play stacks. Really good game the other night for Bunty and Howla. They won me a lot of money over the weekend. I think they can do so again tonight. They're really, really cheap. They're playing really well. The underlying metrics, aren't outstanding. The matchup's pretty good. I think that second line is an interesting value option tonight at 12,100. Yeah, really good game environment. I bet the over here. I think it's a good game environment. Obviously, the Oilers top line, you're going to play them. We talked about the other day, Connor McDavid needs to be over $10,000. He's at $10,000. This is probably the most expensive this line's been this year. It's probably going to just keep going up though. So yeah, I'm happy to mix them in. And I'll probably be 3x Leon's ownership. He's the mayor of Nashville, baby. Like he is going to score tonight. It's just a lock. It's probably like minus 400 at this point. And then, yeah, I don't mind mixing Kapanen in. Podkolzin's fine. A little bit more interest in Kapanen at 2,700. The extra $500 obviously helps out a ton. But yeah, both power plays look like they're in great spots. And, I think when you look at this slate as a whole, I don't think there's a lot of games that scream like super high scoring. And this one certainly feels like one that could turn into a bit of a high scoring game. As Peter Porker puts it, it's perfect time for Leon to come out of his mini slump. Yeah, let's see if he looks like he's trying tonight or if he's just out there doing Leon stuff. Next, really good game environment. San Jose hosting the Columbus Blue Jackets. Looks like a really fun one. The Sharks just are not interested in defending whatsoever. So that's good news if you want to play the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight. Pretty surprised at how low the ownership is for Columbus 1. Now, we've got some kind of interesting developments here so the first time I did the charts, I had Mason Marchment on the top line. Oops, what did I just do there? Let's go. What did I do? Okay, and now everything's breaking. Anyways, the first time I did the charts, I had Mason Marchment out or in, and then I had him out because they said he is not playing tonight. He's now a game time decision. So is Sean Monahan. Looks like Monahan's going to be back. I feel like Marchment isn't going to play. They said he's kind of banged up. Doesn't sound great. Tried to skate in the morning skate. Couldn't finish the skate. That leads me to believe he's not going to play. But if we just have no idea what this lineup's going to look like. So I think that gives us an opportunity here to get creative, because I do think the ownership is going to be a little bit higher than projected. So we've got Voronkov with Fantilli and Marchenko. I think the second line stays together for sure. And then it's going to be like either Voronkov, Monahan, Sillinger, Voronkov, Monahan, Heinen with Marchment up here. A lot of options. Either way, I think Fantilli and Marchenko are in a phenomenal spot tonight. Matchup score there is unbelievable. Second line's in a good, kind of low owned spot tonight. That a lot of really good metrics coming from Jenner, Coyle, and Olivier. I think they're a fun line to target if you're trying to find a cheap stack. I think they're in a good spot tonight. Even this third line, a little bit of Monahan. I think he should be back on the top power play unit. So I think a little bit of Monahan makes some sense. Sillinger's been a little better as of late. I think there's a lot to like about this Blue Jackets team. Obviously, most of my interest still coming through this top line. Whether it's Voronkov, whether it's Marchment, who knows? In terms of the price tag, it is $100. So I would build with Marchment. And obviously, if you have to pivot to Voronkov, it's $100 cheaper, is what it is. So yeah, I think this team is going to come in a lot higher owned than we're seeing projected, especially now with Nedeljkovic confirmed. But yeah, it's a really good spot. There's really no reason to not like the Blue Jackets tonight. Fantilli, Marchenko, just too cheap. Obviously, you've got Sakharwensky just playing unbelievable hockey right now, and he projects as the number one defenseman, also the highest owned defenseman on the slate. I think this 15% is more in line with what you're going to see here from Columbus 1 tonight. On the Shark side of things, this top line, man, has been awesome. Igor Chernyshov is a stud. He's still too cheap at $4,400. Macklin Celebrini up to $9,400 finally. 17% ownership. He is one of the highest owned players on the slate tonight. I feel definitely better about the Columbus side of things than I do the Sharks, with Jet Greaves getting the start. But man, it's hard to ignore what Macklin Celebrini has been doing. Super high ownership coming in on this Sharks top line. 3 of the top, 8 forwards in terms of forward ownership. And then Pavel Regenda also drawing 13% ownership as one of the best value options, honestly. He's come up and just been a stud for them and just keeps moving up the lineup. I believe his first game, he was on the 4th line. Second game, he was on the 3rd line. And then now finds himself on the 2nd line. He has 5 goals in 4 games since coming up, including a hat trick against the Lightning. Shot volume has been unbelievable, 14 shots in 4 games, but has hit the net at a really, really high clip, and he's shooting 35%. So yeah, I think he's a pretty good value option tonight, obviously, just given the fact he's $3,100, but it's not sustainable. So we'll see where it goes. I don't envision myself getting a ton of agenda in tonight, but it's worth mentioning how well he's played thus far. What are your thoughts here? Very exciting hockey game, which is funny because it's the Sharks and the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really like the looks of this game here tonight. This game environment feels tremendous. Feels like one of the better game environments on this entire slate as a whole. I'm pretty much near full agreement with you on this spot. I mean, I love the look of Columbus 1 tonight. I'm willing to sprinkle in on some of these other lines as well. Meet the feel here on this Sharks ownership. I'll probably be coming in a little bit less, a little lower than the field on full stacking San Jose 2 tonight, but I do think Regenda is a really interesting kind of value option tonight at $3,100. So yeah, I really don't have a whole lot to add here. I agree with you on this game as a whole for sure.
So a couple people in the chat saying that Marchment has been ruled out. So that was the official update earlier. And then basically right as we were going live here at 4 o'clock, Dean Evison said plan is for Sean Monahan to return. Mason Marchment left morning skate early and is a game time decision. It's a continuation of the other night. We thought it was better, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't think he plays, but again, it'll probably be Voronkov. With that being $100 difference, I would just put Marchment in there and save yourself the headache, or put in Voronkov and leave yourself $100 to pivot if you need to. Because honestly, like if Marchment plays, that might be a good way to get Columbus a little bit lower owned or get a little bit different. If Marchment plays, I think he'll end up being fairly low owned in comparison to Fantilli and Marchenko. Final game of the night, a lot less exciting. You've got the Seattle Kraken hosting the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, Bruins coming in as -118 favorites on the money line. 3.1 implied total for them tonight. 2.9 for the Seattle Kraken. Taking out the line stacks here in this game tonight. Boston, whatever line has David Pastrnak on it. Boston 2 right now. Grading out as the best line to target on this slate overall. On this game overall. 12th best line to target on this slate overall, I should say. They're drawing some ownership here at 5% here. Boston 1 coming in at 20th overall. Boston 3, 32nd. And then Seattle 1, 2, and 3, 36th, 48th, and 55th overall here tonight. It does feel like a pretty gross game. One thing I will say though, it does have a fairly high pace score overall. Third highest pace score of the entire night. Tough matchups for this top six of the Seattle Kraken tonight. It looks a little bit better for this third line. Shane Wright, Jared McCann could be an interesting value play there tonight. Wright does have 2 assists in 2 games played going up against the Bruins in his career. Don't necessarily feel great about this spot overall as a whole for the Seattle Kraken. They're drawing very small ownership here. Basically 3% for this entire top 9. On this Boston Bruins side of things tonight, it looks like a good spot for them. These matchups are really tremendous for them for this top line and this second line as well here. So I think for me, I think I'm willing to kind of get in on Boston a little bit here tonight. This top line, obviously Lindholm, Geekie, Alex Steves. Feel better about just like a little mini stack of Elias Lindholm and Morgan Geekie. Boston too, I don't mind getting there tonight. You were talking last week about how good the numbers looked with Fraser Minton and David Pastrnak together, and these metrics overall for Boston too are improving. I mean, they're not tremendous or anything like that, but 3.3 goals for per hour. Like to see some more volume from these 3 guys that are out there, but this does feel like a nice spot for them here tonight. They're going to be spending 56% of their ice time going up against Seattle too, which is far and away the worst defensive line for them, even if they only give up 1.5 goals against per hour of ice time. This Seattle Kraken team just continues to be nothing short of hilarious to follow all season long here. Their goaltending has been tremendous as of late. That's been really bailing them out here. But this does feel like an okay spot for the Boston Bruins, who also come in with the second best power play matchup on this entire slate here tonight. Really good power play going up against a really, really bad penalty kill. Admittedly, it feels like maybe a spot you get to a little bit of this Seattle Kraken power play as well, which has been red hot here as of late. Seemingly kind of out of nowhere. They do come in with the 10th best matchup overall, but look at how many times shorthanded the Bruins are per game. A super undisciplined team here. So, there's a couple of routes you can go on that front. A little Matty Beniers, Jordan Eberle, Vince Dunn mini stack, a Chandler Stevenson, Eli Tolvanen with Vince Dunn mini stack. I don't mind either option here tonight if you're looking to get yourself really different. This does feel like a little bit more of a late slate play than a main slate play for me, though. How are you feeling about this game?
Yeah, I hate the Seattle Kraken because they just continue. I say it every time we talk about them. They just continue to defy logic. Like, they're so bad, and they are just winning hockey games on the back of great goaltending from Philip Grubauer. Like, those sentences are just make no sense to me. The floor is going to fall out from underneath them eventually. Like, this just can't continue. It's just not. It's not mathematically possible. So yeah, I think the Bruins are really sneaky tonight. You had Fraser Minton play 20 plus minutes in an overtime win against the Canucks the other night. He's from the area. I don't know if that led to him playing more ice time, but his last 3 games, he's at 19 minutes. He has 2 goals, 2 assists in those 3 games. The shot volume is pretty decent, 2.3 shots per game, 3.7 shot attempts per game, and he's just 3K. So I really like a Minton Pasta mini stack night. Not a lot of ownership coming that way, about 7%. I think this is a really sneaky play tonight. Not sneaky, I guess. Still seeing 7% ownership on a 10-game slate, but they feel good, man. I like this spot. I'm never getting Pasta right. Haven't been for years, but the underlying metrics here are good enough against a Seattle team that just simply cannot defend. So they're probably going to draw the Stevenson matchup. Doesn't matter if they draw the Stevenson or the Beniers matchup. Honestly, they're both horrific. So like it didn't work last night with the Flames. It's the exact same spot, right? Like it just didn't work last night. And again, I talked about it early in the show. It's about the process. The process was right with the Flames play last night. It didn't break our way. You look at what the Flames were able to do. Backlund, 7 shots on goal. Coleman, 5 shots on goal. Sharon Govich, 5 shots. Huberdeau, 4. Kadri, 4. Like, they dominate. They had 42 shots on goal. I think the Bruins can accomplish something similar. They're not as a volume team as the Flames are by any stretch, but like Pastic can get to the shot bonus tonight for sure. I think Minton can flirt with it with his reasonable volume. He got there against the Canucks the other night. Like, Geekie, all these guys. This power play matchup is great. So I don't know if it's going to be a lot of Geekie and Lindholm or a lot of Minton and Pasta. Price tag's basically the exact same, whichever one of those minis you want to go with. I think they're both in good spots. I can see myself playing both of them. I really like this spot for the Bruins. And honestly, I can't remember the last time I clicked on a Boston player. Like, it's been months, it feels like, but playing pretty decent right now. I mean, they just scored 6 against your Oilers. Did you see anything in that game that makes you more confident tonight? Oh, and this is another one. Swayman at 7,300 seems terribly mispriced. Yes. Swayman, probably one of my favorite goalies tonight. I have some volume concerns against the Kraken, but like $7,300, Grades as our 5th best goalie tonight. He feels like a fantastic play.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I did find some things from that Oilers-Bruins game. The Oilers are not good defensively, and the Boston Bruins were able to take advantage of it. The Seattle Kraken, not good defensively. Let's see if Boston can take advantage of it here tonight. I totally agree with you with what you said about, the Calgary game last night too. Like, so much of what we do, I think, especially in the DFS streets, is about process. Results obviously certainly will play into it here, but with the way that we analyze these games, that's kind of what we're really looking for. We're trying to find these spots that look like they're going to work. Obviously, it's up to the players and the teams to kind of capitalize on that success for our own benefit. But I do agree with you here, man. Like, I'm willing to get back to Boston 2 here tonight. Great spot here. I'm willing to get the hammer down on the Bruins tonight.
Yeah, can't score the goals for him, right? Let's get to our defensemen and our goalies before we close things out here. So Evan Bouchard grades as the number 1 value defenseman on the slate tonight. I think obviously the Oilers are in a fantastic spot, and he makes a lot of sense. Gostisbehere, you mentioned him, earlier, $4,800. I think that one makes a lot of sense as well. Tom Willander at $2,500 makes a ton of sense there as well. Just in terms of, let me just pull it up over here. Whoop. Let's make it bigger for the folks at home here. In terms of the floor and all of that for basically everybody as of late. So floor per 1,000, guys that are just kind of doing a lot of shit. Ian Moore, Nick Seeler, Brett Pesce, Jamie Alexiak's been fantastic as of late. Adam Larson, Ristolainen, those guys. In terms of just kind of the value, DraftKings points per game, which defensemen have been hot. Zach Werenski, Darren Radich, Pavel Minikoff's been awesome as of late. Sam Girard, really interesting. Didn't do anything the other night, but he is the one that's going to move up and play with Cale Makar. Should see some big minutes there as well. So a lot of quality cheap defensemen, and then obviously I think there's a lot of really good pay up options, which there always is. But like, I love Zach Werenski tonight. I like Bouchard. Roman Yossi's in a good spot. Charlie McAvoy's in a good spot. Gostisbehere's in a good spot. Ekblad's in a good spot. Who do you like tonight?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you hit the nail on the head with some of these plays here tonight on this slate. Obviously, Tom Willander, we talked about him a little bit earlier. He seems like a really great play, minimum priced here tonight. I don't mind, a little bit of Nick Blankenberg, Brady Shea, Sam Malinsky, that kind of range as well. I think there's some solid plays on that front there too. Some real value guys like Brett Pesce has been, just rock solid as of late since returning from injury. Tons of shots, tons of block volume as well. Nick Seeler, Ian Moore, a couple more guys who are right up on that front as well.
Yeah, I think the Canucks must watch the show, because I had Tom Willander as a value play the game before he got put on the top power play unit. I had him in my DFO head-to-head lineup, and then he was on the top power play unit the next game. So clearly they're watching the show and like, man, he makes some sense. In his last 4 games, a goal and 2 assists, averaging 2 shots on goal, 3.8 shot attempts, and 1 block per game while playing 18.09, but played 21.07 the other night. So he's trending up at $2,500. Makes a ton of sense. Let's get to the goalies tonight. We've got Connor Ingram grading out as the number 1 goalie to target. That is horrifying and not something that I will be comfortable doing tonight. Jeremy Swayman, Ilya Sorokin, 2 of the higher owned goalies, but I like them a lot tonight. I think they're both in pretty good spots. Sorokin, I talked about it. Like, the Devils have dominated both those games, and the Islanders goaltenders have stood on their head in those games. I think he can do that again tonight at that price tag. So I feel good about him there. Hellebuck at $7,600, a little bit of a lower scoring game environment. I feel pretty good about getting to him. I don't mind Thatcher Demko if you really want to pay down. He's played pretty well. I think that's a winnable game for the Canucks, although the Sabres are the hottest team in the world. But like, I'd rather pay down for Thatcher Demko than UC Saros against the Oilers or Lucas Dostal against the Flyers. So Yeah, probably a bit of a pay down. The pay up options tonight are pretty tricky. Like I don't mind UPL, which is obviously counterintuitive with going with Demko as well, but he's obviously a scary pay up option. But I mentioned his home and road splits a couple weeks ago. Put in as much stock into them as you wish, but he's been fantastic on home ice this year, 5-1 with a 181 goals against average and a 927 save percentage. So feels like a little bit of a safe play tonight if you're looking like he has the highest implied win total, really good home splits. I think there's, there is something there. I also think that Jet Greaves is super interesting. He has played super, super well, and there is a lot of ownership coming in on the San Jose Sharks. And I think he has the potential to be a bit of a chalk buster tonight. In his last 6 starts, he's 4-1-1 with a 930 save percentage, and he's averaged 29 stops per game, including 38 against the Penguins the other night. So, whoa, where did Zach go? I was just about to throw it to him, and now he's gone. So, yeah, we'll wait for Zach to come back. In the meantime, if you want to participate in the hat trick pick challenge, you can do so by dropping your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube, not the live chat. And oh, my internet is crashing out. Okay. We'll talk to Zach later. Maybe he can text in his hat trick pick or message in his hat trick pick for tonight's show. Zach is clearly a Greaves hater, possibly. Yeah, he didn't like my take on Jet Greaves. I think it made sense. But yeah, drop your hat trick pick. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. If a player scores a hat trick that nobody picked, we'll raffle it off to anybody who submitted a pick. We had a couple winners as of late. Still got to get Marsharks his gift card. I got to get Zach his gift card. And speaking of Zach, he's going with Leon Draisaitl hat trick pick. Duh. And then right after that, Jim B did not get this one in time. Dre should be off limits. Too late. Zach is in. He's going with Leon. My hat trick pick tonight. Give me. I'll go with Kirill Marchenko tonight. I think that's fun. Zach, drop your hat trick pick in the comments, not the live chat. That's phenomenal. Oh my god, that is so good. I love that more than I should. Oh, that is great. What a way to end the show. Zach, any thoughts on goalies tonight before you leave us again?
No, you summed it up pretty well there. Connor Ingram is a little bit terrifying tonight, obviously with how good Nashville's been playing, but his numbers against the Predators in his career, not good. 3 wins in 7 games played, 396 average, 887 save percentage. So probably staying away from him. I like the idea of getting to Swayman. UPL, I think, seems like a solid play here on this slate tonight. Ilya Sorokin drawing quite a bit of ownership. I don't know how good I feel about that one per se, but his numbers have been really good this year. 27.5 goals saved above expected. He has been really, really
awesome.
Good. Really, really good for the Islanders this season. Some of these cheaper guys, I don't really think there's really anybody that jumps out at me as like a great play besides Swayman. Vasilevsky, you've got concerns there about Colorado. Jake Ottinger, he's drawing ownership. You got concerns about how good Carolina's been. So I think for me, I'm kind of going to be paying up a little bit, kind of avoiding some of these cheaper goaltenders here tonight on this slate.
All right. And before we go, if you want to get $20 off your first month of Roto Grinders Premium, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of the video on YouTube. Show it to them for providing projected ownership for today's show. If you want to get 20% off of Action Network Premium, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of the video on YouTube as well. And you can also join the DFO DFS Discord, ever-growing community. We post the charts there. We answer questions. We chat all day long about who we're playing tonight. We drop in all the last-minute lineup information, and then we also do a listener contest in there as well. Zach hosts that. So, lots of fun things going on there. Good luck tonight. Hopefully, you return with more money in your bankroll. It's more than you had tonight. Lots of massive contests tonight on DK. Hopefully, this is a sign of things to come. I won't hold my breath, but we will leave you with that. See you back here tomorrow.